selling technology to the government.
Abraham's Consulting, finding you the right solutions.
Cool. Yeah, so first off, I think we're trying to get Val back on. Val is the CISO for the New York City Law Department, and we'd been talking to them for a while, and then with the recent pandemic hit, we were able to help them out in a time of need with Excelion's content firewall. So the purpose of the demonstration today is really just to walk through our solution and educate you on some of the services that we've been helping New York City Law with. And I don't know if you want to talk about Abraham's quickly.
So Abraham's Consulting was founded about 14 years ago. The intent and still continues to be to serve the federal, state, and local educational institutions. We specialize in 4 main areas: technical staffing, which means we vet technical talent all over the metropolitan area. And so we're not just a staffing company, we actually provide you with the technical expertise, and we place professionals on your site to help with anything you may need, from project management to network installations and so forth. We also keep our ears to the ground, provide niche solutions in the area of storage, security, and networking. So we are always bringing emerging technologies to the forefront. We are the resellers of the vast majority of IT hardware, software, and peripherals. So the only thing we don't really carry is Apple. So we can help there as well. And IT consulting from the perspective of, we can come in and do a gap analysis to determine what your needs are, and help you to establish what the holes are maybe in the infrastructure, to give you and recommend the right solutions to satisfy those needs. We are also 8A certified with the federal government, and as well as a women-owned small business in the state of Georgia and Maryland, as well as New York and New York State as well. So it's our priority to continue to bring unique solutions like Excelion, and that's what this presentation is all about. New York Law is one of our clients. They recently deployed the Excelion solutions. The goal was to have Val here, and he was here until we started having a bit of difficulty. We thought we weren't going to be able to have the call, but we're trying to get him back, and hopefully we can proceed. But in the meantime, Mark will continue with the presentation. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, Angela. So I'll skip over Val's side in case we can get him back on the line, and kind of jump into the Excelion based sides. But yeah, so Excelion really, especially with the recent pandemic, has come into light with a lot of clients, helping employees do their jobs in a secure manner, both in the office as well as remotely. So what we've seen around the industry is that in terms of security risks, a lot of that has started to shift towards companies, supply chains, and third parties that they do business with. So for a couple of examples of that, if you're looking at the Target hack a few years ago, Target obviously invests millions upon millions of dollars into their cyber infrastructure. The way that they were hacked wasn't necessarily someone attacking their traditional firewall. It was through their HVAC employer. You saw a similar story with Airbus, where through multiple suppliers of the Airbus supply chain, hackers were able to get in and get actual full plane manuscripts, which obviously results in millions upon millions of dollars for those respective organizations, on top of the fines that governments have brought down on them after that. So kind of taking a step back and going back to history, obviously computers were invented late 80s, early 90s. They started to take on popularity within clients. So, originally what they did was they would harden each individual machine, which was time-staking and, not effective. So back in the 90s, the traditional firewall started to take off. And the idea is that if you're looking at this slide, in the center, we have kind of the standard applications that most businesses run on. So obviously, most companies either choose Office 365 or G Suite. They've probably got Oracle for some of their financials or SAP, Salesforce for their CRM. iManage is a common legal tool that New York City Law leverages, as well as Epic being a healthcare system. But that's just kind of a handful of those. And then what they started to do was put an elastic around all of those machines and call that a firewall. Well, fast forward to today, this is what most modern organizations look like. With the advent of the internet and more companies moving to remote working, kind of the traditional means of sharing documents has become blurred. We see clients using this, typically clients are on the go, so they're using mobile applications. Companies will have email, some traditional file sharing. Those could be different collaboration tools. We've got web forms for filling out information. And really the key concept here is that organizations have a tough time understanding where all their sensitive content's going. So Excellion realized this and started to develop the enterprise content firewall. The idea behind that is really to facilitate all of these disparate lines of communications, thus reducing your spend on the different applications, and then standardizing that across those different lines of communication. So when we're talking to a lot of clients, they may have a single tool for SFTP server. A lot of times they're going to have some type of automation tool. They might have, your standard email through Outlook, and then some file sharing tool. And security has really become a secondary thought amongst that. And there's a lot of different threat vectors into the organization across those different applications. So what Excellion really does is standardizes that across those and then helps facilitate that work. So it's built from the ground up with security in mind to help employees work from anywhere. There's really three key tenets that we have within the system. The first is it's got to be secure. So everything that we do within the system has a security first mindset. The tool has to go through a FedRAMP authorization every year, which is kind of the highest level of cloud security and required by a lot of government organizations. It's got to be easy to use. So we don't want to really change the way that employees are working or storing their documents today. It should fit seamlessly into those different tools. And then the last thing is it's got to be auditable. So any action that is taken within the system, we should be able to understand who took that action and then where that sensitive content's going. To dive a little bit deeper there, looking on the security side of things, organizations have spent millions of dollars on all these different applications. So, you've probably invested in some type of multi-factor authentication or single sign-on tool. DLP is becoming ever more popular. Organizations are starting to integrate anti-threat protection. You have some type of key management or HSM. And then, of course, you have a tool to monitor all of those. So what Excellion hopes to do is really fit seamlessly into those existing investments. We're not trying to, change your DLP solution. We're going to integrate with that. That way, when you're sharing content and it's leaving the walls, we're going to make sure that it adheres to the different rules that you've set up within that tool. So really just the idea there is to keep all of that sensitive content safe and within the system. Of course, with that, we're going to encrypt everything, both in transit at rest. So state-of-the-art encryption behind everything. Every file that leaves is going to get scanned, whether that's, it ships with AV embedded, but you can also integrate your DLP and ATP tools. We're going to ensure that anyone accessing that system is passing your typical multi-factor authentication. For third parties, we also offer two-factor authentication, whether that's email-based or SMS-based one-time passcode. And then what we start to do is by requiring users to authenticate into the system, now you're getting a chain of custody on that document. So that was really a huge selling point for the New York City Law Organization. What was happening is a lot of times they were sending documents out and they thought that they were sending it to the proper email address, but possibly someone is able to access that content. So being able to track everyone that's accessed that data was a huge value add to them. And then lastly, again, we're going to do this across all of the channels so that you have one single hub to understand where all that sensitive content's going. Second, like I said, it needs to be easy to use. So we don't want to impede workers' day-to-day businesses. So with that, we offer integrations into hopefully all the applications that your users are using today. So some of those that are commonly seen would be SharePoint, OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, on-prem SIF shares, SMBs, local network shares. Accellion has connectors into all of those so that you don't necessarily need to change where you're storing your documents. Just any time that those documents are leaving the organization, trust Accellion for the security side of things. And then lastly, like I mentioned, everything that happens within the system needs to be auditable so that you can, in the court of law, prove receipt of documentations for non-repudiation, understand the chain of custody of those documents, as well as understand where all that sensitive content's going. So what we have there, and you can see this in the top right corner, is a CISO dashboard. So this is something that Val actually logs into as a CISO of New York City law and looks at daily, and he can start to see potential nefarious activity. So what you can see in the top right corner is basically all of the transactions that are occurring within the system, where people are successfully authenticating into the system, where people are unsuccessfully authenticating into the system, where files are being sent, where they're being downloaded. And the idea there is, for example, Val reached out and said, hey, I see this person downloading this file from Europe. I don't think that that's something that's legit. So he was able to reach out to the employee and say, hey, is this actually you? Are you logging in from Europe? I know that you live here in New York, obviously. So a lot of actionable insights. And then what we're also doing, because we're standardizing the channels of communication, we have a really clean system log on the back end. And with that, we're able to start to do analytics and machine learning to bring forth potential issues where maybe someone is accessing a document that they shouldn't be. So we allow you to investigate and drill down into all of the activity and see exactly who's accessing it. And then we're starting to bring forth alerts. So for example, if someone logs into the system from Russia and downloads a document that hadn't been looked at in a few months, chances are that person may be trying to just get in the system and start to poke around. So we can actually send you a text message or put a flag within your system, send you an email saying, hey, this is something that you may want to look into. So getting a little more proactive on the incident response. Then lastly, like we mentioned, kind of with the current state of affairs, working remotely has become more and more prevalent. With that, we saw a lot of companies having issues with VPN traffic where the system just didn't have enough resources behind it to facilitate their full workforce. And with that, we actually had a lot of companies come to us and say, we'd like to bring on additional users into the system to give them this kind of single pane of glass into not only all of their content shares, but also a really easy way to start sharing that content, whether that be in virtual deal rooms or just ad hoc from an email perspective. And then lastly, I think really an important part of the solution is just how easy it is. So it's a virtually hardened image, meaning that it can be deployed on-premise, deployed in the cloud, set up in a hybrid. And then for New York City law in particular, anything that comes through the New York City departments has to be FedRAMP certified. And Accellion's been FedRAMP certified for 5+ years now. So we can really adhere to any of the needs of an organization. And that was it. Any questions? Angela, I don't know, was Val able to join
Yes,
back on?
Val is on. He's here and willing to speak to his use
Okay,
case.
okay, cool. Let me jump back to Val's slides.
I mean, you technically cover everything that I will talk about.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of front ran yours, but yeah, maybe if you just kind of want to talk about, obviously we'd been in conversations for a couple of years, and then I think, you know, with the current state of affairs, things kind of expedited.
Right. So I guess I'm not sure if we're going to need slides going forward, but
Okay.
anyway, as Mark mentioned, we've been working together on this project for quite a while. And the primary reason why I came to Acelian was security in mind, because a few years ago, our number of divisions came to me and asked for a solution that would allow them to, number one, transfer files securely, make sure that we have, as Mark mentioned, full chain of custody. It needs to be completely secure, it needs to be protected, it should stay within the United States solution itself. That's what the FedRAMP will deliver. And also allow agency to send or receive data with unlimited technical size. And while we looked at different solutions, some of them deliver portion of what we would require, and not all of them. And thankfully, I found Acelian in one of the CISA conferences. I believe it was in Massachusetts, if I remember correctly. And we started the conversation, and now we have technically a solution that allow us to do all of the above. And we're expanding. Today we have about 1,400 users, active users in the system, that transfer data ranging from a few kilobytes, but because of sensitivity, they use Acelian for that, because data isn't fully, as I mentioned, fully encrypted and protected. And also some other features, I'm not sure if Mark mentioned about really nice features where lawyers can restrict access to the document, can put a time limit for people to view, even just to view document or download document at all, or stop people from printing. So I guess primary goal was delivered, and now we will be in the process of integrating solution in our environment. So as Mark mentioned, integration with Box, integration with SharePoint, and some internal applications, as well as agency shares, that will make life our users really, I don't want to say really easy, but way easier than they had experienced before. So I mentioned data transfers and the size. So from few kilobytes to, I think the largest, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, was above 100 gig from e-discovery. So
yeah, I think Rob did like 110 gigabytes, but yeah, it's anything up to 16 terabytes. So at least to date, we haven't seen anything bigger than that, but I'm sure with the way that data sets are going, we might get there eventually.
I mean, practically, unless you're doing 8K movies, you're really not looking at 16 terabytes of data set. So for us, as I mentioned, the key was security. And when we talk about security, we really think about protection, compliance, because City of New York, obviously, we have Cyber Command. I'm not sure if people know about this, but they have certain standards agencies need to follow. And TLF, let's say 1.2, and FIPS are one of those requirements that we need to be in compliant with. Also, for the secure file shares, SLN allow you to stay in compliance with NIST, with FISMA, with SOC 2. For some organizations, you have to be in compliance with GDPR. We're not, but we have to be in compliance with HIPAA. And that SLN have a number of reports that can be created automatically for you. And that's really helpful. I'm not using HIPAA automatically. I'm just doing manually for a number of reasons at the moment, but that's really, really helpful. Also, what beneficial to our users, and especially now because of the COVID-19 pandemic, our users use secure mobile file sharing. So I see a lot of users with iPhones, iPads, who access data, who use data on their mobile devices, and actually massage data. And when we talk to some of the divisions, they also express interest in using these capabilities in the court, because that will allow them to share data, to stream data from their mobile device directly into court TV. So that's really, really helpful. And as Mark mentioned about the CISA dashboard, I'm looking at dashboard at least once a day, sometimes 2-3 times a day. It depends on the time I have, but it's really, really helpful, and I strongly recommend to use this particular option because it gives you a lot of visibility without accessing data itself. Because initially our lawyers expressed concern that I would see the data, and we explain to the users that CISA or someone with assigned responsibility to look at CISA dashboard would not see the data itself. What I see in particular is the activities and different type of activities. As Mark showed you before, you see successful logins, you see failed logins, which technically are hacking attempts into the system. You see also data transfers, what data views. That will give you idea who are and where the recipients are and who they are. Because in my case that I can speak of, I see once in a while users who all of a sudden end up in California, Puerto Rico, as example. And when I see something, to me it's abnormal because our users technically all New York homegrown, and they all usually come from New York, maybe New Jersey. And when I see some activities that goes between New York and outside state like California and any other states, let's put it this way, then I investigate by using this particular dashboard, and then I contact users and asking questions like, is it legit? Is it you? Did you access at this time? Did you transfer this particular file or view this particular file? So far so good, everything is legit, but that also make lawyers less worried or compliance officers less worried, because we have chain of custody, we monitor data activities, and also down the road it will be integrated with the SIM solution, and any abnormal activities you can create rules and basically it will alert you immediately, because obviously you don't have 24 hours a day to look at the screens and look at other internal systems that you monitor. So the SIM will actually will be able to deliver you the most critical alerts in in a matter that you can take immediate action if you need to. So compliance, protection, and productivity. That was really the key requirements from our agency, from our employees. And right now, as I mentioned, we're going to reach out the end goal, which is technically account for every agency employee for most part. Right now, 2,200 employees, and we have 1,500 accounts active. So
yeah, that was awesome, Val.
So,
and then, yeah, I think a few other things just to kind of, not only can Val as the CISO not see some of that sensitive content, I know that came up a few times with the lawyers, but with Excellion hosting the solution, Val actually owns all of the encryption keys. So I know that came up also within some of the contract talks is, well, Excellion technically has access to this data, but no, we don't. So it's really privacy at the end of the day. Val owns all the encryption keys to the data. We don't have access to that.
Right.
Looks like, Angela, I saw that you posted up a poll, but I don't know, is there any way to unmute the participants so they can ask any questions they might have? Or
I'm trying.
I mean, in the meantime, people can actually type their questions in the chat, and we'll answer.
While they're working on that, yes, go ahead and use the unmute.
And while you're working on, another thing that I can say that this particular solution, it's quite easy for the end users and IT staff. It has some little caveats, and that's where Mark and the support team from Excellion comes in. But overall, it took me literally no time to learn and start managing, creating accounts, and helping users, as well as our own users who not technically savvy, let's put it this way, and some of them not technical at all, and they were able to send and receive files successfully without any issues. A little hiccups here and there, obviously. Not everyone's the same way, and some people understand quicker than others, but overall it's a simple solution for the end users, and if your users, some of them or most of them, are really tech savvy, then they will enjoy even more, because it's so simple, but it will give you so much option in terms of data control and ability to send or receive files for that matter. And you can have integration with your email system. You will have integration with your internal applications, so the data movement and control will be even easier.
By the way, you guys,
yeah, it looks like there's
you can unmute yourselves. You have the option to unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah, it looks like we have two questions. One from Thorane, Thorane, I believe we've met. I think you work at Cyber Command. So Excellion protect secure business data. So the way that the device works is it can be set up basically to meet your needs. So you can either require users to be on some type of VPN if you choose to, or allow them to access the website on their own personal devices we think we've taken care of all the security measures that you would need on the back end to ensure that, as well as for the mobile devices. We integrate with any mobile device management tool, or a lot of companies are actually comfortable with the security posture to just allow users to roll out that mobile application on their own device. And then Shalom said, I think, Val, this is more of a question for you.
Yes.
Are you using all internal cloud or the Accellion cloud? And why did you decide on that choice? So I can probably tee you up a little bit. So they ended up going with our FedRAMP cloud offering, Shalom. So it's Accellion hosted, but it's in a private AWS instance. And I think there was quite a few reasons that we selected that, but Val, I'll probably let you talk to that.
So, yes, as Mark mentioned, we do use Accellion Cloud for a number of reasons. One of them was COVID-19, because we actually initiate semi-production in Accellion Cloud after everyone was home already. So that was reason number one. Number two, we use FedRAMP Accellion hosting capabilities because we don't want our data to be anywhere but United States. So that's not a reason. To answer the rain question, for instance, in our case, we do not allow users, and trust me, dealing with more than 1,000 lawyers, to copy data onto their own personal devices. Okay, so all our data still resides within a city environment with a low network only. And when the data is transferred or requested by lawyers, they use now Accellion to move the data. So data stays protected all the time. Okay, and when you connect from home, you connect to Citrix, and then everything else done through either RDP session for limited number of users for business reasons, or they use internal applications like Chrome browser to access Accellion and send or receive files that on users' home drive or within some applications that we publish also on Citrix. So there is no data that gets transferred to home drive, home PC. Do you have any more questions?
Thanks, Al. Yeah, looks like we got 3 more minutes if anyone else has any last minute questions. If not,
Hi, this is Sushil from DSS. I had a question. Is FedRAMP a mandate FedRAMP?
For us, it was mandated by law department.
Oh, okay. So it's not from cyber.
No, because you have to keep in mind that law department handle all the litigation cases against City of New York mayor, right, and all the public officials. So we deal with so many cases, some of them really, really critical, private, and some of them can cost city millions and millions of dollars. So we ask for the FedRAMP.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But if you're okay that your data will be replicated between different data centers in the cloud outside of US, I mean, that's your choice. But I would also ask cyber if, you see, it all comes down to data classification.
Mm-hmm.
And if you classify data, I mean, do the highest classification, and if it's really, really critical, then I would strongly recommend to go with the FedRAMP.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that, we've kind of seen FedRAMP. It's somewhat future-proofing your business if you are in the government side of things, where a lot of different districts are starting to require it. So, like down in Texas, It's been coming up a lot with the recent CJIS, the criminal justice information security policy they have. So it's something that I think, like I said, can help future-proof your business if that's something that could be coming down the road.
I also see a question from Shalom about mobile app. Tell the truth, we're not there yet. Only few users using mobile app for view, and technically for view only at the moment. We still have to go through design phase a little bit later with SL and engineering team, and come up with approach that will satisfy security and agency needs at the same time. Right now, I don't want to say allow, but I do not recommend to our lawyers to use mobile device. But for viewing purpose, I see that people do use.
Great. So it looks like we're at the top of the hour, and I think we've handled all the questions. So yeah, I think as a follow-up, we'll obviously send out all of our contact information. Val, really appreciate you taking the time to help us out on this. And yeah, appreciate everyone's time.
And just for everyone, I mean, since practically everyone is under city agencies, feel free, shoot me an email if you have any additional questions, or you will come up with additional questions down the road. Send me an email, I will try to answer it.
Selling technology to the government. Abraham's Consulting, finding you the right solutions.